beaucoup pour être ici. It's an enormous pleasure to have you, to have special guests today to celebrate the life, the academic life, the intellectual life of a great Mexican intellectual, Octavio Paz. This Congress, Coloquio, is the result of people who have worked a lot since the fall. And I would like to give this special thanks to Norma Jimenez and Ricardo Camarena. They are actually the real engine of these 2 days of intellectual exchange. And I would have to say also thank you very much to all the volunteers, the graduate students from this program, the Spanish program, the professors who are here, and also to the guests from different universities from around Canada, United States, and of course Mexico, and some other countries. Sorry, I don't have in Venezuela, who are here today with us. We have a special guests, and I would like to welcome the first speaker, Mr. Andrew Taylor, who is the Vice Dean of Faculty of Arts.
Bienvenue tout le monde, Votre Excellence, invités distingués, chers collègues, chers étudiants, chères étudiantes, je vous souhaite le bienvenue ici et je vous félicite pour votre participation à cet événement. I'm delighted to see that you all managed to get here despite our horrendous weather and what seems to be an almost endless winter. I'm a very keen cross-country skier myself, but even I am beginning to feel that as we move into April, it would be nice to see a little bit of spring. It's a great honor for us to have you here, to welcome you to this celebration of Octavio Paz's work. I bring you also greetings from the Dean. He regrets he can't be here to welcome you himself. He is busy doing the endless busy work of the modern administrator and has been caught up in yet another urgent meeting. So he sends his regrets and his congratulations and his welcome to you all. I don't want to speak for long. I've come here to have the pleasure of listening to Professor Moreno in particular, to welcome you here and to also have a chance to listen to a little Spanish, a language that I can only very tentatively read and cannot even begin to speak. But the knowledge that you were coming here has given me an occasion to revisit Paz's poetry, which I do read. I guess the challenge to slow down, to find the time, to think about the power of what he's doing has been useful for me, and a reminder in this world of social media, endless emails, of what is not merely urgent but important. So often the urgent forces out the important. It's good to have an occasion to return to what is important. Poetry may not be urgent, but it is important and difficult. So that I might say to him, voy por tus pensamientos afilados, that I have to pick my way through his narrowed or straightened or difficult thoughts. It's an intellectual challenge. It takes real work. That's why when we offer poetry courses to our students, very often it takes some work to get them into them. Poetry is a challenge. And I suppose doing that, what has struck me most is the wild energy of that poetry and the way it talks about things that are most important. I find in it, as he says himself, rostro para mirar la vida hasta la muerte. And it seems to me that this is the kind of thing that poetry still offers us, and provides a raison d'etre for what you do and what we do here at a Faculty of Arts. And so it is a great pleasure for me to welcome you all here today, and also just to echo Luis's remarks a moment ago in thanking Norma and Ricardo and all the other students who provided the energy to set this up. That's why we need graduate students, for the direction and the energy they can give us. So thank you very much for, it is thanks to your energy and direction that this conference has been brought here together today. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Et maintenant, j'aimerais bien donner la bienvenue à notre directrice du programme des langues et littératures modernes, Dr. Telmissany.
Merci, Luis. Good evening, everyone. I'm very, very happy to be here among you today. And as Vice Dean Andrew Taylor just said, you made us revisit once again Octavio Paz. I am, in particular, very indebted to this great Mexican poet because I've learned about him when I was 15, 16 through Arabic translations. So imagine he traveled until Egypt, and he was actually worshipped more or less by many writers and young poets and rebels across the country and across the Arab world as well. So I would have read a couple of lines in Arabic for you, but I'm not going to torture you with this. Just to share with you some of the lines that I have read by Octavio Paz and that inspired me all along throughout my years. And I tried to find the translation in English, actually, of an Arabic line that I read years ago about revolution. And he was saying, translating from Arabic to English, revolution is a revolt transformed into theory and system. And I keep remembering this one. I write it on my Facebook page whenever I have to talk about the Egyptian revolution. So you know there are lots of connections between what's happening in Mexico and what is happening now in Egypt. And Octavio Paz has been an inspiration for many of us on many levels. So poetry does count, poetry does make a difference. And we're thankful because you were able to bring back Octavio Paz to our attention once again, celebrating the 100th anniversary of his birth. I want to thank also all my colleagues who are here today, all the colleagues from the Spanish section or Spanish program, all the graduate students who put a lot of effort organizing this wonderful event. And welcome in the name of everyone here, once again, Ambassador, His Excellency, the Ambassador of Mexico. And I will end this presentation words of welcome by another maybe fantastic quotation from Octavio Paz. I'm sure you are going to hear a lot about le labyrinthe de la solitude et d'autres grandes œuvres de ce grand poète. But in another book, Alternating Current, he wrote this: today we all speak, if not the same tongue, the same universal language. And this speaks exactly to what we do in the Department of Modern Languages and Literatures. We are 8 different units in this department: Spanish, Italian, German, Arabic, Asian, Celtic, Russian, and so on and so forth. So it is exactly what we do. We all speak, if not the same tongue, the same universal language. And to continue with Paz, there is no one center, and time has lost its former coherence. Different times and different spaces are combined in a here and now that is everywhere at once. I wish you all a fantastic event with Octavio Paz and with all the fantastic presenters here today and tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Last year, when we were just having this conversation how to organize this event, we contacted Embassy of Mexico because we couldn't organize such an event without their help, without their support. So I would like to thank Soile Padilla, Soile Padilla, who received us, open the doors of the Embassy of Mexico, together with UNAM Gatineau. There was a team behind helping giving names who would be invited to this event. And so they promised us, the ambassador, to have his words today. And I would like to thank His Excellency for being here. And I would like just to introduce him, Francisco Suárez Dávila.
Thank you very much. It is for me really a great privilege to be here today at this forum to commemorate the centennial of the birth of a truly great Mexican, Octavio Paz. I would really say, this is not a diplomatic comment, I would say that really on behalf of the Mexican government, to express our appreciation to the University of Ottawa for organizing this event, to Vice Dean Taylor, to Director Telmissany, to the Spanish Department, and to the very active, as was being said, Coloquio committee. C'est un... Ouais. C'est... Yeah. Okay. C'est... Oui, bien. Alors, c'est un cliché que les Mexicains et les Canadiens ne se connaissent pas bien, et que le meilleur, je pense que le meilleur chemin de rapprochement entre nos cultures, c'est à travers justement Paz, le poète par exemple, Atkinson et Monroe, à travers eux nous devons plus proches. Cette année, c'est la coïncidence du 70e anniversaire d'établissement de nos relations diplomatiques et celui de Paz. Je pense que c'est une bonne occasion de renforcer nos rapports. Moi, j'étais toujours lié à l'UNAM, tout le temps, plutôt dans la faculté de droit et sciences économiques. Mais pour moi, parler de Paz, au lieu de parler du visa, de visas, je vous assure que c'est vraiment un privilège intellectuel. I have the great intellectual challenge of saying, trying to say a few meaningful words about Paz with noted experts, particularly Javier Rico Moreno, who listened with great attention. But this invitation gave me also the excuse to fruitfully spend a very cold Ottawa weekend. Instead of reading or rereading Paz, that was really a pleasure. I spent the whole weekend doing it. I chose to read it. It's very difficult for me to find a niche to speak about Paz, and I chose two that refer to my background. One is probably not so well known, Paz the diplomat, and Paz the political essayist as a visionary of the path to modern Mexico. First, a few words of Paz the diplomat. Octavio Paz chose to share his obviously main literary vocation to a path through the Mexican diplomacy from his very early years. This is, by the way, a very common feature with many of our great writers who shared diplomacy together with writing. That's the case of people like Alfonso Reyes, like Amado Nervo, Jaime Torres Bodet, Rosario Castellanos, and Carlos Fuentes. Paz served for 25 years in our foreign service, running through the whole chain, from the lowest rank, administrative officer, secretary, counselor, minister, and eventually to ambassador. He worked at the Consulate of San Francisco at the time of the San Francisco Conference, the foundation of the UN. He worked at the Consulate in New York. He was twice at the Embassy of Paris, fundamental influence in his career. He served at the embassies of Tokyo, Berna, and Geneva, and twice in India. That undoubtedly contributed to his formation, and obviously you can see why he was a cosmopolitan man, open to all currents, knowledgeable of world literary trends. And he met many great people of both the Western and the Eastern culture. He was a good friend in Mao, Sartre, Radhakrishnan, Vargas Llosa, etc. At his peak, he was serving as ambassador in India, a country that he enjoyed immensely, on which he became an expert and wrote a truly great book, Vislumbres de la India. Unfortunately, there occurred the events of the repression of students in the summer of 1968, and he courageously resigned from the Foreign Service. He wrote to the Foreign Minister he could not serve a government so opposed to his way of thinking. According to Enrique Krauss, I think his most loyal pupil, of the 68, he founded in Mexico what he called the culture of dissidence. Free from any bureaucratic ties, according to the same Krauss, he began his golden age, in which he changed, as Ricardo says, he changed the intellectual life of Mexico. Among other things, he founded the famous journal Directora. I will mention briefly some contributions as an essayist and a thinker. To Vargas Llosa, he is, I believe that, he's as good an essayist as he is a poet. It's interesting that he enters the realm of ideas from the vantage point of poetry. Our other great writer, Fuentes, also enters the area of thinking from the novel. And I think it would be interesting to compare how the different intellectual projects coincided or in which there were differences. I'm struck in rereading Paz after 10, 20 years, how timely and up-to-date are his intellectual ideas. And it's interesting to say, or to at least speculate, what would be his views on current issues. Above all, he was always a great polemist, and he was obviously great. He was very controversial. In line with the topic of this meeting, the labyrinth of Mexico is also the labyrinth of Paz. He had always a fascination with Mexican history and its different stages. You understand his fascination with Mexican history in terms of its roots. His father was a prominent revolutionary actor linked to Zapata. His grandfather was, again, a liberal linked to both Suárez and to Diaz. He points out that Mexico is isolated from the world. That's the Laberintos del Poeta. At the same time, I think a prevalent theme is the need to preserve our historical traditions. One would ask now, 20 or 50 years after instead, what we would say whether Mexico is now closer or not to the world. He entertained throughout a romantic, and I would say on the whole, sympathetic vision towards the Mexican Revolution, which he called the first great revolution of the 20th century, and as I quote, the revolution that recreated the nation, although of course he became disenchanted with this evolution. A very interesting comment, and I think the comment that was just made in terms of the relevance to the Egyptian revolution, in one of his very interesting writers, he speaks about the concept of revolt and revolution, which he defines as a reencounter or reestablishment of the past. To him, at one point in time, it was Zapata reverting to communal land property, and on the other hand, revolution as a dramatic change. But with great foresight, and in one of his interesting essays, he uses this great foresight, and he says that one of the crucial, critical issues of these and future years will be what he called la rebelión de los particularismos, the rebellion of the exceptions. He makes a brilliant effort of these resurrections of national or religious traditions, and he makes a very good study of the Iran revolution. But in speaking of this rebellion de los particularismos, he speaks of the rebellion of the Tamils, the Ukrainians, the Irish, and the Palestinians. I was very impressed when I saw this. He was certainly a visionary of a modern Mexico, and he was obviously always obsessed with democracy. He said very clearly, change is inseparable from democracy. He probably would be pleased by how much Mexico has advanced in that path towards democracy, including the defeat of the PRI in 2000, which he did not live to witness. And he wrote a very insightful essay in 1985, El PRI, la hora cumplida. But nevertheless, he on the whole made a very balanced analysis, not prejudiced about the evolution. At one point in time, he liked very much the reformist trends of socialism. Against, in a sense, the common enemy, the philanthropic over the authoritarian state. He fought on the side of liberal democracy, but he was not a liberal, as he confesses in an interview. And he says this because he does not solve half the questions we asked ourselves. In a very good interview with Scherer, and I like to cite this very much in the controversy between the neoliberals and the progressive economists, and he said, I'll quote in Spanish. It's a quote I like very much. En el tercer mundo, aparte de las injusticias y desigualdades que produce el mercado de marca, daña moral e intelectualmente a los hombres, pues sustituye la antigua noción de valor, which is the classical and Marxist version of value, por la del precio. Ahora bien, las cosas más altas y mejores, la verdad, la libertad, la solidaridad, no tienen precio. Y subraya, el mercado no tiene dirección. Su fin es producir y consumir. Es un mecanismo. Y los mecanismos son ciegos. Convertir a un mecanismo en el eje y motor de la sociedad es una gigantesca aberración política y moral. I'd like to call this very good. The conversation that he had in Paris in 1945 with French intellectuals like David Rousset, that had witnessed the Soviet concentration camps and the Gulag, was also a strong influence on the young Paz. He became an open critic of the deformation of socialism, its suppression of democracy, and its repression of human rights. After 1968, he also became, according to Krauss, he broke the unity of intellectual life of Mexico, and particularly he broke the intellectual unity of the left in Mexico. He expressed openly his criticism and disenchantment with both Cuba and Nicaragua, and he was always opposed to left's prevailing view of revolution as the only source of change. As a result of these pronouncements, some leftist activists burned his effigy in 1984 in front of the American embassy. This controversy continues when in 1989, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, his group, the Huelca Group, organizes a famous seminar, The Experience of Liberty, to analyze the fall of Soviet socialism. A rival group organized, some months later, another symposium, the Coloquio de Invierno, to which he was not invited. You can see that Mexico active debate had been present all the time. What would be his perspective of current events in Latin America? In an excellent essay on Latin America and democracy, he gave a hint of his thoughts. Paz says, la política internacional de México se ha fundado tradicionalmente en el principio de la no intervención. Fue y es un escudo jurídico y un arma legal. Nos ha defendido y con ella hemos defendido a otros, pero hoy esa política es insuficiente. Sería incomprensible que nuestro gobierno cerrase los ojos ante la nueva configuración de fuerzas en el continente americano. Ante situaciones como la que podrían advenir en América Central, no basta con enunciar políticas abstractas de orden negativo, tenemos principios e intereses que defender en esa región. No se trata de abandonar el principio de no intervención, sino darle un contenido positivo. Queremos regímenes democráticos y pacíficos en nuestro continente. I tried to write a little name of a country there, but my inner censors told me no. You know, keep straight to the quota by Paz and don't refer to any actual situation, which would be mere coincidence. Well, anyway, what is clear? What is clear? I think what is clear, as one of his admirers said, Octavio Paz is one of the great masters of the thinking of the 20th century. In the world of the Spanish language, he is right up with Ortega y Gasset and the high space.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Vamos a tener una continuación con varias presentaciones y solamente quería darle alguna indicación. Vamos a tener una conferencia plenaria, luego tendremos
una pequeña pausa de unos minutos y luego continuaremos con 3 otras conferencias para terminar más o menos hacia las 7 con una visita a la exposición iconográfica en el primer piso. Así que todos vamos a, digamos, al final pasar al primer piso a poder ver el trabajo también de otros estudiantes graduados. Quisiera invitar al doctor José María Urbano de la Asa, quien se encargará de hacer la presentación correspondiente a la conferencia plenaria. El profesor José María Urbano de la Asa es profesor de nuestro departamento y tiene a su cargo la cátedra de los estudios relacionados con los estudios de España.